All right, calling the case of the people, state of Michigan versus Brianna. I'm sorry, not Brianna Thompson. This is Chaka Wilbanks. This is file 20-0733ST. This matter was set for 2:45 for a show cause. The defendant owed $300 in fines and costs. She's not making payments. I'd set up and sent notice to the defendant. My staff did on May the 4th, ordering the defendant to be here in person on May 24th at 2:45. Time now is 3:35. Trina, even though she was supposed to appear in person, is there anyone in the virtual waiting room that could be Ms. Wilbanks?
No, Your Honor.
Is there anyone out in the hallway that could be Ms. Wilbanks?
Your Honor, I do have people in the hallway. I will place a call really quick just to make sure.
If you would, please.
Chaka Wilbanks to the courtroom, please. Chaka Wilbanks. Your Honor, I did place a call in the hallway and no one is.
All right. The defendant failed to appear. Bench warrant will issue for her arrest. The amount of the bench warrant will be $300. Will be adjourned on that case. Now calling the cases of the Edenville Township versus Daniel Berthium, file 32806, 33306, 33406, 33506. Mr. Berthium, please come on up. And if I could have the parties identify themselves from my left to my right.
Jerry Cole for Edenville Township.
And Mr. Berthium, please state your name for the record.
Daniel Berthium.
Thank you, Mr. Berthium. Today's time and date set for a review hearing. Mr. Cole, have you been out to the property recently?
Yes, sir. Yesterday and today.
What is the status of the property?
Close but not done. He's still got 4 unlicensed and operable vehicles. Yesterday he had 5, but he removed 1 since yesterday, so he's down to 4. Unlicensed boat trailer and quite an accumulation of junk on the front porch. Looks kind of like it did 2 years ago.
Mr. Berthium, you remember when you spent time in jail while you're waiting?
Yes,
Do you wish to do that again?
Not really.
Why are you adding things to your property?
Well, one thing, I got a boat trailer out there for sale, and I got a car out there for sale, trying to get rid of them.
Were they there before?
No.
Why would you bring them to property when we've been overviewing your case for over a
Because
year
it's
about
better-
stuff you're bringing
it's
to the property?
Because it's a better traffic area for cars going by to sell.
But they're unlicensed.
But the opposite, I'm trying to sell
Were they up at your Gladwin property?
it. They were when they put them out there, but I'm using other vehicles now. That's why I want to sell them, because I'm not using them.
You said we're back to about where we were 2 years ago, Mr. Cole?
Yeah. Of the 4 unlicensed and operable vehicles, there's only 1 that was the same one when we started this, the Ford Ranger. He's had a turnover. Some left, some came in.
Is that true, Mr. Berthium?
I didn't quite hear everything said, but yeah.
He said, I know you have some issues hearing, so let me speak up. Mr. Cole said that you had other vehicles there. You took those away. So there's only 1 that was there when we started this process that's still there.
Right.
But you had other ones.
Well, like I said, that's a better spot to sell them versus where I live at.
Is there a ordinance regarding sales of vehicles? Are they required to be licensed?
I can't answer that right off the top of my head, truthfully.
How about the rest of his property?
The front porch looks like it did 2 years ago. The yard was cleaned up a little bit more. There's still a bunch of paddle boats stored off to the A side of the house, row side of the house, that haven't been touched in 2 years. But one of the cars was involved in a serious accident.
That was your son or daughter, right? Who got involved in the crash? You did.
I did.
You did. What are you going to do with that car? It's smashed.
I'm going to have clean it out and scrap it.
Why wouldn't you have done that before today's date? It's not like you didn't know that this date was coming.
Because there's only so much I can do.
Does the township, Mr. Cole, have availability would it pay for a dumpster? I've got plenty of folks that I can put in community service now make sure that his property gets cleaned up. My experience has been Mr. Berthium then would find other places for his treasures as opposed to having them thrown away.
I have not gotten an answer back yet because I missed the township board meeting last time around.
When is the next township board meeting?
It would be the second Tuesday in June.
All right, Katrina, could you give me a date of about 30 days out, Mr. Berthium? You're limiting my abilities. You're about to go back to jail again until your property's cleaned up.
Your Honor, that would be Monday, June 28th at 1 p.m.
Monday, June 28th at 1 p.m. Mr. Berthium, on that date, if you add new stuff in and the stuff that's currently there now is not gone, you could be going back to jail under civil contempt. Civil contempt means you stay in the jail until it's cleaned up. What is your plan? You only have 1 month.
Well, the vehicles should be moved by then. I was doing a lot of the smaller stuff and fixing up, putting new carports up on ones that were damaged in the storm this winter.
But carports won't help you in the circumstances. It's got to be enclosed. And then if you want to build something, you have to have a permit. And you said that finances were a problem. And that's the reason why you haven't built a bigger barn. And the barn you have, your storage facility is chock full.
Of vehicles.
Of vehicles.
One thing I bite off, it's an R2 area, residential 2. So it's not commercial. And like I said, I haven't done the research. I looked at, but these are things he's bringing in with the intention that he's using it as a commercial venture.
You may be in another violation.
Yeah. So,
Mr. Berthium, on June 28th, you're going to know your fate. You either be going home or going to the Midland County Jail. I'd prefer you not to go to the Midland County Jail. But I don't know what to do. This has been going on for 2 years. It's enough. We'll be adjourned until June 28th at 1 p.m.
thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I would expect, Mr. Cole, you have gone to the township meeting second Tuesday in June and would have looked at the ordinance and have it available for me to take a look at regarding his R2 residential and what he could and could not sell, and if he can sell unlicensed and unoperable vehicles.
Oh, indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We're all set.
Good.
Katrina, with 3 minutes till the next hearing. Mr. Branson, have you seen Mr. Wolney?
I have not, Your Honor, but I don't know from there.
That's okay. We've
We
got,
also have several individuals will be zooming in. I'm not sure if they need to be admitted by the court or Katrina.
they would,
In the lobby, so we don't.
are they going to be participants?
I'm sorry?
Are they going to be testifying?
They may, depending on.
Well, the difference is we have this also on YouTube, so it can be watched on one if they're not going to participate. If they're going to participate, then it would need to be Zoom. So there's two different
I think
formats.
They may end up participating.
Okay, all right.
Depending on the direction of the call.
Okay. We'll just take 1 minute. I'm going to take this off the record for a second. I'm going to have a seat. Mr. Branson over here for the city. Mr. Wolney with your client, Mr. Kern over here.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. We're not on the record yet. Well,
Oh, okay.
when you're speaking, you can have your mask down.
Thank you.
You may have a seat.
So there's three full copies here.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Apologize for the delay, Your Honor. I am back.
No worries. Get this on as well as YouTube?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Calling the case of the City of Midland versus Jeff Kern. These are files 01-001-343-ON, 01-001-344-ON, 01-001-345-ON, and 20-1255-OM. Council, please identify yourselves for the record.
James Branson, behalf of the City of Midland. Richard T. Wolney on behalf of the defendant.
All right, and with the interpreter,
Your Honor.
please identify yourself. Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
My name is Teresa Cho. Last name is spelled CHO.
Yes, Katrina?
I'm sorry. I just couldn't hear, so we're good.
All right.
Just handed to me today.
Ms. Chow, if you would raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will truly, accurately, and impartially interpret the matter now before the court and not divulge confidential communications, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. You may need to speak a little bit louder. I don't know if Mr. Kern can hear you.
Okay.
Could you just say your name so we can hear your voice?
Okay. My name is Teresa Cho.
Mr. Kern, were you able to hear? Can you hear her?
Yes.
들리십니까? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Today's time and date set for a review in person. And I would note that Mr. Wolney is here, Mr. Kern is here, Mr. Branson is here, and there are a number of other individuals in the courtroom today.
그래서 오늘은 이 사건에 대해서 검토하는 날인데요. 미스터 쿤이 여기 계시고, 그리고 미스터 원리도 계시고, 미스터 브랜슨도 참석하시고, 또 다른 분들도 여기 와서 참석하고 있습니다.
Mr. Wolney, it's my understanding is that you had some documents that is it an exhibit that you wanted me
There
to
are
see?
going to be multiple exhibits.
Okay.
제가
Mr. Branson.
알기로는 미스터 원리가 증거물을 가져오셨다고 서류를 증거물을 가져오셨다고 그랬는데요.
Mr. Branson, have you had an opportunity to see the exhibits before today?
Yes,
어,
just
오늘 전에
that's the asbestos report.
오늘 전에 이 증거물을 검토하실 기회가 있으셨습니까?
Your Honor, I've seen two invoices presented by Mr. Wolney. One is for a fence company and one is for Performance Environmental. Mr. Wolney indicated that what he's purporting to be the environmental study. I have no issue with those being presented to the court for review or consideration.
Okay.
지금 두 가지가 있는데 하나는 무슨 컴퍼니에서 온 거고 하나는 environmental 그런 부서에서 온 건데 저는 그것에 대해서 아무 문제가 없습니다.
I presume, Mr. Wolney, you've not had an opportunity, if you just got it delivered, you probably have not had an opportunity to review the asbestos
No,
study.
but for the record, I'd like to present these to the court as exhibits, which Mr. Branson just referred to. And for purposes of this, we literally just got this today. And for purposes of not only certifying that it was delivered to us, but Mr. Batiglia is here, who is the contractor who is going to be in charge of leading all this work.
그래서 지금 이걸 받으셨으면 이거를 검토하실 기회가 없을 걸로 아는데요. 예, 그렇습니다. 그리고 이거는 컨트랙터가 지금 여기 와 계십니다.
Mr. Branson, any objection to I'm going to do the first two documents. The report will be last. So one is going to be Exhibit A, and it doesn't matter to me which one it is, Mr. Wolney.
Doesn't.
So I'm going to put, there's two invoices as Exhibit A.
그래서 이 두 개의 서류를 증거물 A로 지명하겠습니다.
They are not the same invoice, so Exhibit A is the Performance Environmental Services, Inc. Any objection to that being in the record, Mr. Branson?
No, Your Honor.
그래서 이거는 다른 서류인데요. 이 서류가 증거물로 쓰여지는 거에 대해서 반대하십니까? 반대하지 않습니다.
Exhibit is the invoice for the Shamrock Fence Corporation. Any objection to that, Mr. Branson?
No, Your Honor.
그리고 또 증거물은 샘락 그 회사에서 보낸 인보이스입니다. 그거에 대해서 반대하십니까? 반대 하지 않습니다.
The third document is a fairly thick, and I'm not certain I want that as part of a public file.
No.
So I would suggest we do it as demonstrative evidence, just for the fact that an environmental study was done and the date of the environmental study. If you have any objection to that, Mr. Branson?
I do not, Your Honor. I believe one of the invoices probably purports that is done, but also the document that's extensive.
Your Honor?
I would rather not worthwhile.
You may have to put your mask down, I think. Mr.
I'm
Branson.
sorry. Thank you.
Your Honor, I have no issue with that being presented to the court for either review or demonstrative evidence. I certainly would not want that part of the public record.
I presume you the same.
Yes, Your Honor.
그래서 세 번째 서류는 거기 아주 두꺼워서 이거는 그 증거물로 만들고 싶지가 않습니다. 그냥 이런 것이 있었고 그리고 날짜가 어느 날짜였고 그런 정도의 정보만 있으면 되겠고요. 그리고 이제 필요할 때는 볼 수 있게끔 그렇게 하겠습니다. 거기에 대해서 반대가 있습니까? 반대가 없습니다.
You may bring up the document.
이쪽으로 갖고 오십시오.
Your Honor, might I address the court?
You may. You can take your mask down to address if you wish.
As you can see, that document is dated today's date. It's addressed to Pat Patiglia, who is the point person on the demolition of this. That is not only an environmental report, it's very specifically an asbestos abatement report, which my understanding is it's absolutely required for the demolition permit to be issued. That document, I believe, is the last thing we needed to process with the city to get the demolition permit. At this time, as I speak, the entire site is fenced. All of the utilities have been cut off at the street and capped. And that was, I think, the last thing we were waiting for.
Okay, give your interpreter a second.
그래서 서류를 보시면은 그 날짜가 오늘 날짜로 되어 있는데요. 그것은 이 서류는 시청에서 그 허가서를 내는데 아주 필요한 것이고요. 그리고 오늘 이 상태에서는 그 부동산이 다 펜스가 쳐져 있고 그리고 모든 전기나 그 가스 같은 것이 다 차단되어 있습니다.
Is it your contention then that Mr. Patiglia is planning on moving forward with the request for the demolition permit now that this has been completed?
그래서 본인이 생각하기에 미스터 페테글리아가 건물을 뭉개는 그 허가를 해줄 걸로 생각을 하십니까?
Your Honor, just for the record, I'd just like to indicate Mr. Patiglia is here today present to answer any questions from Mr. Branson or yourself.
제가 말씀드리고 싶은데 미스터 베테글레가 여기 오늘 참석해 있기 때문에 질문이 있으시면 그분한테 직접 얘기를 할 수 있습니다.
Mr. Branson, it's pretty easy for the court to take judicial notice that the structure is still in place. It's pretty easy to see when you're driving by within the city. Do you have any objection to me having Mr. Particularly here to ask a few questions regarding their intentions and his plan going forward?
그래서 미스터 브랜슨한테 얘기를 드리고 싶은데요. 오늘도 그 건물이 아직 서 있고 운전을 하다 보면은 그 서 있는 것이 보입니다. 미스터 베테글리아를 세워서 질문을 하는데 반대하십니까?
I have no objection with you talking to Mr. Batiglia. I have had an opportunity to meet with him myself. He certainly knows what he's doing. There is no issue about that whatsoever. And there is no concern with the court asking him any questions and going forward with what the plan should be out there. He is also, I would assume, going to be the person that applies through the city as an application for the demolition permit. As of today, there is no application been filed because of these things that have to be clicked off before the application could be considered for a demolition permit to be issued. So I really have no objection to the court inquiring as deep as it would like to go. There are standards for the application as well as the permit to be issued. And when all of those are met, then a permit would be issued under the demolition ordinance that we have.
그래서 저는 미스터 베테글리아한테 질문을 하는 것에 대해서 반대가 없습니다. 미스터 베테글리아가 한테 제가 질문도 했었고 많이 얘기를 했었는데 그분은 자기가 하는 일에 대해서 잘 알고 있고 그리고 그분이 이 건물을 뭉개는 그 신청서를 낼 것이고 또 신청서를 받을 겁니다. 그래서 이때까지는 이 모든 일이 있어야지 야만이 신청을 할 수가 있었기 때문에 저희는 많은 질문을 하셔도 되고 전혀 상관없이 질문을 미스터 베테글리한테 질문하는 것에 대해서 반대를 하지 않습니다.
Your Honor, I have just one other comment, is that we have standing by because of the limitations of the court occupancy. We have Mr. Ryan Chapman, our building housing technician, Mr. Steve Taglauer, our chief building official, and Tony Lilo, our fire marshal, who is out in the lobby on Zoom watching this because of the limitations here. So if you have questions of Mr. Digley, you may have questions of them as well. And I think Mr. Walling has one other comment to make.
Your Honor, I must correct myself. I said that was the last thing. Actually, it's the second to last thing. That was required. The asbestos study is required because the last thing is the payment and performance bond, which must be met to get the demolition permit issued.
제가 한 말을 조금 바꾸겠습니다. 제가 아까 그런 그 리포트가 허가서를 받기에 마지막으로 해야 할 일이라고 그랬었는데 그것이 아니고 마지막에서 두 번째로 해야 하는 거고 마지막으로 해야 되는 것은 페이먼트랑 퍼포먼스라는 것을 해야 됩니다. 그리고 검사 측에서는 여기 라이언 채플맨이랑 토니 윌러랑 그 소방서 측에서도 와 있는데 지금 다는 못 들어오셔서 지금 코비드 때문에 많은 사람들이 한꺼번에 만나지를 못해서 밖에서 줌으로 보고 있습니다. 그래서 그분들에게도 질문을 할 수가 있습니다.
Gentlemen, because of the interpreter and the difficulties it is for her to need time to be able to interpret what we say, I'm going to ask most of the questions and let you follow up with anything that I may have missed, if that's all right.
그래서
Yes, Your Honor.
그래서 지금 통역하는 사람이 통역해주기에 좀 힘들고 그러기 때문에 괜찮으시면 제가 질문을 거의 다 하고 질문하지 못한 것을 본인들이 나중에 하십시오. 괜찮습니까? 네, 괜찮습니다.
It's also typical for us to ask one question and get a short answer, ask another short question, get another short answer. I'm going to ask an open-ended question and let Mr. Batiglio answer longer, but at some point in time, I may stop you if the interpreter raises their hand and you've gone too long.
그리고 짧은 질문을 여러 개 하고 그리고 짧은 대답을 할 수 있게끔 그렇게 할 텐데 그냥 긴 대답이 있을 그런 질문을 해서 긴 대답이 있을 경우에는 통역하는 사람이 다 하지 못하면은 손을 들면은 그때 짤막짤막하게 크게 하겠습니다.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead and seat, please.
그래서 지금 얘기하실 것이 사실이고 모든 사실이고 사실만을 얘기하실 것을 선서하십니까? 네.
Good afternoon, sir. State your name, your occupation, and the relationship you have, if any, with Mr. Kern in a professional setting.
So my name is
이름이랑 그리고 하는 직업이랑 그리고 미스터 컬이랑 어떤 관계인지 얘기를 해주십시오.
My name is Pasquale Battaglia. And for my grandfather's sake, it's not Battaglia. I am a
Your
business
Honor?
development.
I'm sorry, could I have him spell that, please?
First name P-A-S as in Sam, Q-U-A-L-E. Last name B as in boy, A, T as in Tom, A-G-L-I-A.
Thank you.
제 이름은 파스쿠엘 바타글리아고요.
I'm a project executive and business development director for Brevard Construction and Paratus Development out of Brighton, Michigan.
저는 브라이튼 미시간에서 있는 그 회사 발이라는 회사의 그 프로젝트 executive고 비즈니스 디벨롭먼트 하는 사람입니다.
Have you been hired by Mr. Kern to do anything on his property here in Midland, Michigan?
Yes, I have.
미스터 컬으로부터 이 미들랜드에 있는 이 부동산에 대해서 일을 하라고 요청을 받으셨습니까? 네, 그렇습니다.
When were you hired?
언제 하이어 됐죠?
I've been acting as a owner's representative in Michigan for Mr. Kern for approximately 4 months.
제가 그 주인을 대리하는 그런 사람으로 일을 한 지가 한 4개월 됐습니다.
What, if any, role do you have regarding the demolition of the property here in Midland, Michigan, owned by Mr. Kern?
이 건물을 뭉개는 데 대해서 어떠한 책임을 갖고 계십니까?
I was retained to evaluate the condition of the property, determine what it would take to demolish the building, and then come up with a proposal and plan to do same.
그래서 저는 그 건물에 대한 상태를 점검하고 그리고 이 뭉개는 데 대해서 어떻게 할 건가를 알아내고 그리고 거기에 대한 계획을 짜는 것입니다.
Have you completed those tasks?
그런 것을 다 하셨습니까?
I have completed some of the incremental tasks that lead up to the actual demolition of the building.
그래서 제가 건물을 실제로 뭉갤 수 있는 거에 대해서 조금씩 일을 했습니다.
I see this as two parts. You initially had testified that the evaluation of the condition of the property, the steps that would need to demolish, and a proposal was one task. You may or may not get hired to actually do the demolition. And that's where I was trying to figure out where you were. So have you completed the task of the evaluation and the recommendation and the proposal?
Yes, I have.
그래서 지금 장소를 점검하고 그리고 이 뭉개는 데 대한 그런 계획을 짜는 건데 제가 보기에는 두 개의 단계라고 생각합니다. 그렇게 계획하는 거랑 직접 그렇게 하는 거랑. 근데 그렇게 그 계획은 다 하셨습니까? 네, 했습니다.
Let me make myself clear here. Is it your recommendation and professional opinion that the building cannot essentially be saved and must be demolished?
Yeah.
제가 질문을 해보겠는데요. 이 건물이 뭉개야 되고 살릴 수는 없다고 생각하십니까? 네, 그렇습니다.
Yes, it is my recommendation, and we did do an evaluation to see if any of the building was salvageable, and we found that to be a negative, and the building must come down.
그래서 제가 그것을 생각하고 계속 검사를 했는데 그리고 어느 부분적으로 살릴 수 있을까 봤는데 그럴 수가 없고 다 뭉개야 됩니다.
It is not my intention to find the details of your contract, if any, but are you a person or a company that actually could do the demolition, or would you have to have another company do that work?
그래서 이 건물을 뭉개는데 본인의 회사가 그것도 직접 할 수 있습니까? 아니면은 또 다른 회사를 또 고용을 해야 되는 겁니까?
We would administer the demolition through one of our trusted partners who is an excavating and demolition contractor.
그래서 제가 저랑 같이 일하는 그런 회사를 우리가 잘 지켜볼 것입니다.
Have you been contracted to do that work?
그래서 이 일을 하도록 컨트랙트를 맺으셨습니까?
At this point, we are having Mr. Kern contract directly with our subcontractors for his benefit. And he has retained those contractors as I have presented proposals to him.
그래서 지금은 미스터 컬이 본인을 유익을 위해서 다른 subcontractor를 고용을 했고 했습니다.
So at this point, your capacity is really more advisory, but Mr. Kern was not hiring you to be the middleman between himself and the contractors that actually would do the work.
그러니까는 본인은 지금 이렇게 어드바이스 해주는 그런 역할을 하는 거죠. 그러니까는 그 중간에서 회사 중간에 껴서 이렇게 일하는 그런 분이 아니고요.
We are taking an administrative role, but this helped expedite the process, understanding the conditions that Mr. Kern was under.
우리는 그런 지켜보는 그런 활동을 했는데 그래서 이 일이 좀 빨리 진행될 수 있도록 도와줬습니다.
What is the name of the contractor that would do the excavation work?
그래서 이 직접 일을 하는 회사 이름이 어떻게 되죠?
ProX Excavating out of Burton, Michigan.
ProX Excavating이라는 회사인데 버튼 미시건에서 있습니다.
What is the name of the demolition company?
이거 뭉개는 회사의 이름은 어떻게 됩니까?
That would also be Pro X Excavating.
그것도 ProX Excavating입니다.
What is the name of the person that would be in charge of the work, supervising the work for Pro X Excavating, if you know?
혹시 아시면 ProX Excavating을 통해서 일하는 데의 그 슈퍼바이저 이름이 어떻게 됩니까?
That would be Roger Birmingham, who is also a principal of Pro X Excavating.
그분의 이름은 로저 버밍햄인데 그분은 ProX Excavating의 그 주인입니다.
Would Pro X Excavating be pulling the permit, or would that be you pulling the permit for the project?
이 프로젝트를 위해서 허가증을 받는 사람이 본인이십니까? 아니면은 미스터 로저입니까? 혹시 아시면 얘기해 주세요.
Pro X Excavating will be pulling the permit and providing a performance bond for the work.
ProX Excavating에서 그 허가증을 받을 것입니다.
I know that I would be sustaining objections to my next question, so I'm just saying up front. If you know, has the contract been signed between Mr. Kern and Pro X Excavating? If you know.
제가 반대를 할 줄 알아서 제가 미리 반대를 하는 것을 얘기를 드립니다. 혹시 그 컨트랙트를 한 거에 대해서 혹시 아십니까? ProX Excavating이랑 같이 컨트랙트 한 거요?
Mr. Kern has executed that contract.
미스 컬이 다 컨트랙트를 다 맺었습니다.
If you know, are there timelines in that contract for the work to be completed by, if you know?
그 컨트랙트에 있는 내용에 대해서 혹시 아시면은 이 모든 일이 어느 날짜에 진행되고 언제 일이 끝나는 걸로 써 있는지 혹시 아십니까?
I've developed a project schedule and Gantt chart for this project, which I've shared with Mr. Branson, that shows the timelines. There is a to be determined portion of it, which would be the remediation of the asbestos, which has to still be evaluated per the survey that we just obtained today.
그래서 거기에 지금 오늘 미스터 브랜슨한테 드린 스케줄에 의하면은 거기 to be determined, 그러니까 앞으로 정해질 겁니다라고 써 있는 거를 보면은 우리가 지금 오늘 나온 그것을 기다리기 때문에 그렇게 썼습니다.
If the remediation component were completed today, if you know, how long would it take for the demolition to be complete, pursuant to your Gantt chart?
만약 모든 것이 다 순조롭게 진행되면 이 뭉개는 게 언제 다 끝이 날 것 같습니까?
The actual demolition from start to removal of the fence will take approximately 5 weeks.
그래서 실제로 뭉개는 거 시작부터 끝까지는 5주 정도의 시간이 걸립니다.
This may also be outside your area of expertise, but this to be determined. If you were to make a best hypothetical guess as to how long that portion would take,
거기에 앞으로 정해질 겁니다라고 써 있는 것은 이 본인이 거기에 대해서 엑스퍼트가 아니지만은 혹시 혹시 개수를 한다면은 한 어느 정도 걸릴 것 같습니까?
If you're referring to the abatement,
yes.
the preliminary review that I had of the report, which was just outside of this courtroom earlier, there is a substantial amount of asbestos in this building, in the Wackerly building. And it may take, for us to get quotes and fully abate it to state standards, it may take 5 to 6 weeks once the crew is on site.
거기에 일하는 분들이 거기에 참여하기 시작하고 나서 모든 것이 없어질 때까지, 폐지될 때까지는 5주나 6주가 걸릴 것입니다.
Would that require hiring yet another company that does the asbestos abatement?
그것은 또 다른 또 컴퍼니를 고용을 해야지 되는 겁니까?
Yes.
네.
Have there been preliminary talks regarding providers for asbestos abatement to have the discussions with?
그것에 대해서 같이 얘기하는 그런 컴퍼니가 있었습니까?
Yes, Your Honor. Our consultant, Performance Environmental, has already walked several contractors through the site in anticipation of this, so as we don't miss a beat.
그래서 그 여러 컴퍼니가 와서 둘러봐서 지금 빨리 진행할 수 있도록 지금 하고 있습니다.
Based on your experience, could you, if a contract were signed today with an abatement company, how long would it take for them to actually get men or workmen or women on site? If you know.
혹시 아시면 오늘 그 컨트랙트를 사인하고 하면 한 한다면 얼만큼의 시간이 필요합니까? 그 사람들이 와서 거기에서 일을 시작할 수 있는 그 시간.
Even though there are tremendous labor shortages in the trades right now, I would anticipate it would take us a week to 10 days to get crews out there, if not sooner.
요즘은 좀 일하는 사람들을 찾기가 힘듦에도 불구하고 사람들을 찾는 데면 한 일주일에서 10일 정도나 걸리든지 아니면 더 빨리 구할 수가 있을 것 같습니다.
If you know, have there been any requests for bids made to any of the asbestos providers? I know you just got this back, but you said that there were a number of asbestos removal professionals that have walked through the buildings. When would you anticipate the request for bids to go out to these? I'm trying to find an outside timeline that we're looking at. We're at 12 weeks now, and there's not been an asbestos company hired yet. That's where I'm going.
그래서 지금 그 일을 할 컴퍼니를 아직 고용을 못했는데 그걸 고용하기까지 얼만큼이 걸릴 것 같습니까? 왜냐면은 제가 그 고용된 그런 컴퍼니가 없기 때문에 지금 여쭤보는 겁니다.
For accuracy, Your Honor, I would at least like to be allowed a couple days to get that answer. My Gantt chart currently has this demolition going out to the end of July. I'm sure I can better that, but without that crucial information, I can't state.
That's where I was getting at with my questions. I probably should have started with the end if you knew how long it might take. And I understand best case scenario.
그래서 지금 이게 지금 한 이틀 좀 기다려야지 더 확실한 대답을 해드릴 수가 있는데요. 그렇지만 만약 한다고 그러면 7월까지는 가야 될 것 같습니다.
Are you the person that is requesting and doing the follow-up with the asbestos removal companies?
그것을 물건들을 다 없애는 그 컴퍼니랑 본인이 일을 같이 하실 겁니까?
Your Honor, I'm tracking every aspect of this project, including making sure everybody has keys to get in the fence and the building.
저는 둘러보면서 그 펜스에 들어갈 수 있는 열쇠가 필요한 사람이 누군가 제가 항상 알아보고 있습니다.
Do you have keys to the fence in the building today?
그 펜스에 들어갈 그 열쇠를 본인이 갖고 계십니까? 지금?
I have keys to the building, keys to the fence I'm picking up after I leave here.
그 건물에 들어가는 그 열쇠는 갖고 있고 오늘 그 펜스 그를 들어가는 그 열쇠는 오늘 받을 겁니다.
Where are the keys to the fence?
그 펜스에 들어가는 그 열쇠는 어디에 있습니까?
They are in possession of a young man that's been helping us with labor on site, and he's waiting for my call. He is in direct proximity to the building itself.
그 건물에 대한 일을 도와주는 젊은 남자가 지금 갖고 있는데 그 건물 근처에 그분이 그 사람이 있습니다. 지금 제가 전화하기를 그 사람 기다리고 있습니다.
Mr. Wolney, how long is Mr. Kern in town for?
Mr. Wolney, Mr. Kern이 여기에 이 도시에 얼마큼 오랫동안 있을 겁니까?
It is my understanding that he was going to stay in town and have dinner with family here in town. And then he was going to go down to approximately Brighton, Michigan to continue tomorrow with Mr. Batiglia.
제가 이해하기로는 오늘 저녁 때 여기에 있는 식구들이랑 저녁을 같이 먹고 내일 아침에 브라이튼에 또 직접 가려고 그런 걸로 제가 알고 있습니다.
Would he still be in town for us? Because I want to walk through this building and I want to have an opportunity to recircle back. I just didn't know if he would be in town on Wednesday of this week so that we could continue. You could do it remote. If he's here, I would want to have a follow-up after we go walk through the building today.
왜냐면 제가 그 건물을 둘러보고 싶어서 그럽니다. 그래서 여기 근처에 계시면은 한 수요일 정도 거기 가서 제가 그 건물을 둘러보고 싶습니다.
Your Honor, I made no assumptions. I wouldn't do that in terms of what your expectations or requirements would be. We certainly had an anticipation that there might be a physical examination. He was planning on having dinner, like I said, with family, but if it's the court's position that they would like to leave here and while it's still daylight, walk the site, I'm not going anywhere until the court's satisfied.
I was talking about the follow-up. He's here from California. I want him to just have dinner with his family, but I do want to take a quick tour through the facility so that I know what I'm looking at and can then ask the questions. And so I didn't know if I wanted to, because the interpreter will not be with us on the site, I wanted to come back and just close the loop of what we all agree that we saw. And I was planning on doing that Wednesday morning if Mr. Kern were still in the state of Michigan on that day.
그래서 제가 원했던 것은 지금 여기에 미시간에 계시는 동안 같이 둘러보고 또 우리 둘러볼 때는 통역하는 사람이 없을 거니까 다시 와서 수요일 날 둘러본 그 내용에 대해서 얘기를 하려고 했습니다. 그래서 수요일 날 여기 계실 겁니까?
Your Honor, we did not have any, again, anticipation as to what your requirements would be. I personally picked Mr. Kern up today many hours ago now and drove here. He has just his carry-on from LA to here.
Does he have tickets to go back? I'm just trying to figure out how long he's going to be here.
He does have a ticket to go back. His ticket to go back is out of Columbus, Ohio at 5 p.m. on Wednesday.
Okay. Katrina?
그래서 이런 것을 하실 거라고 제가 생각을 못했었고요. 근데 제가 알고 싶은 것은 수요일 날 언제 LA로 다시 가시는지 그것을 알고 싶습니다. 그래서 가는 티켓이 있습니까? 네, 수요일 날 오후 5시에 콜럼버스에서 떠나야 됩니다.
Your Honor, might I inject something here? I've written down all of your questions. There's one question that I think might be particularly important given this current line of questioning. Mr. Batiglia, could you please explain to the court on the record the scope and the authority as the owner's representative?
그래서 지금 이 중요한 질문을 지금 하겠는데요. 그래서 이 본인의 그 역할과 그 하는 일의 범위를 얘기를 해주세요.
Mr. Kern has asked me to take charge of the demolition of this facility. I present him with contracts, and then it is my responsibility to see that those contracts are fully executed as he executes them.
미스터 컬이 저에게 요청하기로는 이 건물을 붕괴하게 해달라고 그랬고요. 그리고 컨트랙트를 보고 그 컨트랙트대로 이 일이 진행되는 것을 확인해 달라고 그랬습니다.
Mr. Branson, any questions that I missed that you would like to ask?
미스터 브랜슨, 제가 뭐 질문하지 않은 것이 있습니까?
No, Your Honor, no question.
없습니다. 질문 없습니다.
Katrina, when is my last preliminary examination for tomorrow scheduled?
내일 preliminary examination을 마지막으로 하는 그 시간이 언제입니까?
Your Honor, you have a preliminary examination at 3:30 p.m.
그래서 그 preliminary exam이 3시 반에 있습니다. 마지막으로.
Do we have any others before that?
그 전에 뭐 또 있습니까?
Your Honor, we have no exams. The one at 2:15 is adjourned.
그 전에는 없습니다. 2시 15분 것이 있었는데 그것은 다음으로 연기됐습니다.
Ms. Chow, would you be available tomorrow at 2:15 in the afternoon? I have a question. How long do you think it will take? It depends on how long. At 3 o'clock, I need to be doing a preliminary examination, so it's going to be fairly short. I'm just going to explain what we saw this afternoon.
Okay. And also, I will be not at my house, so it will be like I would have to probably have to do it in the car if that is okay. That's
I talked with people over the last year in their car, just as long as you're not driving.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Wolney, would you, for this, if you need to, because I know you do not live in Michigan, if you need to zoom in from there, you can. I did this because I knew Mr. Kern would be in the area. and I hope that he is still available to be here. So
We-
would you be available at 2:15 tomorrow? I think we're just doing
2시
planning right now.
15분에 여기 있을 수
Yes,
있습니까?
I would be available on a Zoom meeting. Yes, my things are, I should be done by noon, so by 2 o'clock I should be okay.
Mr. Branson?
I'm available, yes.
Okay. Say your name correctly for me so that I have it straight.
Pasquale Battaglia.
Battaglia.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Battaglia, you've answered all the questions that I would have had. We just need an opportunity, because I'd like to break now and go to the property. Not looking to do an extensive viewing. I just want to see some of the main things and some of the concerns that Mr. Branson had raised regarding the graffiti and some of the of those locations. And so if we were to reconvene in about 15 minutes, would you have keys to the property?
Yes, sir. On the west side of the building is the gate to get in the fence.
Mr. Wolney, this is your client's property. I presume we have permission to go into the property, and I know to do the viewing. Otherwise, I'll order that.
그래서 본인의 손님의 부동산인데 우리가 갈 수 있는 허가를 받았다고 제가 그냥 생각을 하는데요. 혹시 허가가 없다면은 제가 명령을 볼 수 있는 그 명령을 내릴 것입니다.
Yes, Your Honor, we certainly are granting permission, and I was going to point out that prior to coming here to court, we got here early enough. We went by the property, took numerous pictures. Is it Sea Power?
Yes.
Anyway, the gate was open because there was utility people in there, so we should be able to go in if they're still there.
We'll have Marcus meet us.
Okay.
Mr. Branson, I know that the city, this has been a high priority for the city. You have the mayor here as well as other council members here. I don't know who you're intending on having go through that because they're your supervisors. So who is it that you would also want on that?
We would ask that the mayor be allowed as well, time permitting for her schedule, which I believe she has open for a little while. We would ask the ward representative, which is Councilman Brown Wilhelm. We also have, if the court would like to ask independent questions, we have the fire marshal, we have the chief building inspector, and we have the building technician, which are available for just factual questions if the court would like them. So,
And I think those would be better for me after I've seen it, that I can ask them better questions tomorrow if they're available.
we will do our best to make them available. We'd also ask my senior paralegal to join us on the tour as well. She takes notes for the
And they can be by Zoom. I needed to have it in
for
person.
tonight, Your Honor.
Right, for tonight, yes.
음.
Okay.
그래서 어느 사람들이 질문을 하고자 합니까? 시장도 있고 거기 소방서 그장도 질문이 있을 거고 그렇지만은 오늘 그 부동산을 둘러보고 갔다 와서 질문을 하고 싶습니다.
All right.
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
clarify. The individuals I have here that are in the hallway, do you want them to be available tonight or tomorrow?
Well, if they're available tonight, we won't be able to capture the questions on record. I don't think I'll remember all of the questions on record. That's the reason why I was thinking I would ask them the official questions, but.
They have time to go or not go? It's
Okay.
really up to you.
Then I would have them go because then I can kind of refer back to the locations that I saw for the questions that I have specifically.
Very good.
All right. Mr. Wolney, I'm going to hand this back to you. We only used it for demonstrative purposes, and I don't think it needs to be scanned into the public record.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Is there anything else we need to put on the record for now until we adjourn until 2:15 tomorrow?
Your Honor, the only other areas to discuss to make sure we're all on the same page are the fines that are assessed by the court. We have whether the court will entertain any discussions of the liens or not, but I just want to get it out there. And those are two major issues that we have to address somehow to resolve.
I plan on doing that tomorrow.
Very good, Your Honor.
I know the court was contacted by an attorney from Saginaw regarding a lien holder. I told them for today's hearing, I was not planning on having them be here tomorrow if they're available. I don't know how we'll address that, but we will.
Other than that, Your Honor, we have nothing to bring up, and we will meet you timely at the Old Holiday Inn.
Just a second.
그래서 거기 가서 만나겠습니다.
Your Honor, just for the record, we have engaged the services of Attorney Floyd Gates, whose basic field of law practice is dealing with liens and bonds and what have you. And I believe he's already been in touch with Mr. Berenson specifically with regard to the lien that was placed on what is still public property, which is not my area of expertise, but according to Mr. Gates, is in violation of the law and needs to be taken off immediately. Jim?
And that's absolutely true. Mr. Gates has contacted us and copied a letter to us back in the beginning of April, I believe. And I sent him a note as a follow-up. I've not heard any response to say what is going to happen after his letter in demand to the attorney representing the lien holders. So that's been out there for quite some time.
Ms. Joe,
Yes.
we're going to adjourn for the record right now, and we'll see you tomorrow in your car at 2:15.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
We're off the record.
Not yet.
Could somebody like request for an interpreter to the agency, the 7 Sealing Guard?
Yes, for your services?
Yes.
Yes, we will do that.
Okay, thank you.